Our top stories, and this weekend thousands of people will be rallying calling for greater action to violence against women. The New South Wales Premier will convene a cabinet meeting with experts on domestic violence as calls grow for a royal commission after the alleged murder of a woman in the state's Central West this week. Joining me live is criminal justice and criminology expert Dr Terry Goldsworthy. Thank you so much for your time. Dr Goldsworthy, we're hearing many politicians, including the PM, saying that we all need to step up and more needs to be done. Would you agree?
Yeah, look, DV is a blight on our society. It has been for many years, and we're now all well and truly aware of it. I can remember as a young constable in 1989 when the DV legislation first came into Queensland. It was a new tool for us to deal with relationships that had broken down and involved criminal behaviour, and it's developed a lot, much more expansive since those early days. But look, I've heard the commentary around, DV crisis and other descriptions of it like that. And I would just caution politicians to go to the data and have a look at the data from the Australian Institute of Criminology, which shows that we're actually doing a reasonable job in addressing the DV issue. I mean, the rate of intimate partner femicide has dropped by 78% since 1990. So it's dramatically decreased and continues to decrease. So the long-term data says that we're being quite effective in reality in dealing with domestic violence type crimes. If you look at domestic violence homicides, the last report told us that 68% of the offenders were male and 32% were female. But when you come to victims in domestic violence homicide, it's much more balanced. It's about 45% male and 55% female. So there's a lot of permutations and a lot of nuance around domestic violence homicides, which is what we're focusing on the debate at the moment. But I think we just need to step back and have a look at what does the long-term data tell us. The recent events have been horrific, and there appears to have been some issues that could have prevented these matters occurring. They are all worthy of looking at. But I think in terms of some of the commentary from senior leaders, etc., they should just take a step back and have a look at our long-term data that indicates we are being quite effective in addressing DV.
On our screen it says Bosca, 48% domestic violence homicide victims were male.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, so I just gave you the AIC data, which is national, but the Bureau of Crime Research and Stats New South Wales reflects that as well, and that's over a 5-year trend. So, the role of gender in approaching DV does have a role, but there have been some recent studies. One came out last year and said we should be very careful in terms of, looking through DV through a prism of gender as our total response. We should be looking at a multitude of different inputs and factors in relation to DV to decide our legislative and our policy responses. I saw a tweet on Twitter come out from a national editor when Chris Minns was talking about changing the status quo in relation to bail. And the person said, this means that probably men won't get bail if they commit DV offences. Well, I don't think the legislation will gender it. I think the legislation, if they do that, will say if you commit a DV offence. And that could capture a lot of female DV perpetrators, as the Bosca data shows. About 6,000 women every year get charged in relation to a DV-related assault as a perpetrator. So we want to be careful there's not unintended consequences when we come forward with propositions to address these issues. We need to think about it, we need to think of the impact, and we need to think, does this actually address the problem that caused the issue in the first place? And we're seeing a spike in domestic violence homicides at the moment. I'd say it's a spike. It's only a matter of months that we're looking at this data. We need to see what plays out over the next 12 months and see if this is an uptick. If it is, then perhaps we can go further in terms of looking how we respond to this nationally. But at the moment, I would say the long-term data indicates to us that we have got effective policies and procedures in place. Yes, there are ways we can do better when we have issues around bail being allowed and things like that. But we need to judge each instance on its own circumstances. I think that's the important thing.
All right, let's